Hi fellow logicians, welcome to the Logical Christ channel where we evaluate logical argument that would help us apply logic to arguments presented. Now, here's the logical argument we will evaluate. Premise 1, the Quran teaches that the sun sets on muddy spring. Premise 2, science disagrees that the sun does set on muddy spring. Conclusion, therefore, Quran is not a scientific miracle. Sit back and relax, we will be back after this short intro. Here again the logical argument. Premise 1, the Quran teaches that the sun sets on muddy spring. Premise 2, science disagrees that the sun does set on muddy spring. Conclusion, therefore, Quran is not a scientific miracle. Premise 1 argument. In Surah 1886 it clearly says that until, when he reached the setting of the sun, he found it setting within a muddy spring, and he found near it people. We said, O Dhul Qarnayn, either you punish or else adopt among them good. Muslims assert that this surah is metaphorical, but an honest reading of the verse and its context shows that it actually happened. Here's a clip that shows how Muslims distort the speech of Allah to deny His very word.
The first way of making the Quran not look too embarrassing is to corrupt it and to make it correct again. If you search on Google for this Quran verse, you will likely land on Quran.com, which features the Sahih International translation of this verse. In that translation, you will see that they added something that doesn't exist. The verse suddenly says that he found it as if it was setting in a muddy spring. See how they lie to you? The Arabic text says nothing like that. The Arabic text simply says that he found the sun setting in a muddy spring. Here we come to number 2 of those apologetics. Many say that the translation is simply not clear and that you need to read it in a context, that the word used for finding it actually describes the situation only from Dhul Qarnayn's perspective, not as a general truth. So when the Quran verse here says he found it setting in a muddy spring, it means that he saw it that way, not that the sun actually sets in a muddy spring. First off, as a lover of linguistics, I have to say that that's absolute garbage. But in order to refute such apologetics, I can do 3 things. Look at other translations, compare the word to other verses, and use common sense. If we look at other translations, such as Pickthall, Yusuf Ali, or Muhsin Khan, we can clearly see that all these approved, certified, high-class translations clearly say that he finds it setting in a muddy spring. I guess they all made a mistake here, and so did the authorities that approved these translations. If we want to look at the word used here for finding is wajadaha, which means he found it. Wajada means he found. Now, we don't even have to go far. The same word is used again in the same verse. When it says he found near it a people, he found here is wajada. It's the exact same word. So is this as if now? He didn't really find those people, it was only as if he found those people?
Now for premise 2 argument. It is an established fact that a sunset is a visual manifestation of the Earth's rotation and the way our atmosphere interacts with sunlight. It's a complex and beautiful phenomenon that combines physics, chemistry, and meteorology. And not as the Quran pictured it to travel in a resting place, described in Quran 36:38. Following the arguments, we can logically accept the conclusion that based on scientific evidence Quran is not a scientific miracle. Here is another spin of the same logical argument. Premise 1, Muslims claim that the Quran is a scientific miracle. Premise 2, there are events and teachings in the Quran that is proven scientifically wrong. Conclusion, therefore, Quran is not a scientific miracle. Here are verses from Quran that have claims which defy scientific facts. First, a literal translation of Quran 16:66 says, "And indeed, for you and the livestock is a lesson, we give you to drink from what is in its bellies, from between excrement and blood, pure milk, palatable for the drinkers." This verse shows that milk comes from between excrement and blood, which not true. Next, a literal translation of Quran 10:5 and 71:16 says, "He is the one who made the sun a radiance and the moon a light. And he made the moon within them a light, and he made the sun a lamp." This show how the moon is a light, contrary to scientific fact that it only reflect lights. Another, a literal translation of Quran 86:5-7 says, "So let the human consider from what he was created. He was created from a gushing fluid. It emerges from between the backbone and the ribs." Many believes the fluid refers to semen, but any interpretation of this verse is scientifically problematic. Also, a literal translation of Quran 51:49 says, "And from everything we created two kinds, that perhaps you remember." This verse shows that everything is created in two kinds, which is disproven by science. There are many examples of things that is only in one kind. Lastly, a literal translation of Quran 36:40 says, "Not the sun, it is fitting for it that it overtakes the moon, and not the night preceding the day, and each in an orbit they swim." This is also in Quran 21:33. "And he is the one who created the night and the day and the sun and the moon, each in an orbit they swim." These verses show how the sun orbits, floating, and racing with the moon over the earth, which is not true scientifically. Finally, after our evaluation of the premises, we have a solid logical argument that Premise 1, the Quran teaches that the sun sets on muddy spring. Premise 2, science disagrees that the sun does set on muddy spring. Conclusion, therefore, Quran is not a scientific miracle. What do you think, my fellow logicians? Comment down below.
Thinking with logical Christ.